Hey YouTube, T. Holtz here. Going to give you a quick tour of my tanks tonight. The first one we're looking at is my 10-gallon, what I used to call my shrimp tank. But over the course of the past year or so, most of the shrimp have disappeared, and there's only a handful of shrimp left in this tank. We probably won't even see any as we take a look at it. There used to be probably close to 100 shrimp in here, and like I said, now there's about 5 or 6. Not really sure what happened. I suspect I have a theory, but I'm not sure if my theory is exactly correct. And we'll talk about that in a minute. You'll see this tank very heavily planted. There's a big ball of Riccia moss right there. Some Anubias. Have these dwarf lilies, Java moss, more Riccia. Pygmy chainsword here in the front. Some snails here in the corner, but I don't see any shrimp in here right now. This tank is definitely getting ready for a trim, as this Riccia and this Java moss over here, this big ball on this side, is ready to be trimmed to let some light through, as it seems to be starting to block the other plants in this tank. And I think maybe the shrimp might have disappeared, possibly because on the top of this tank I had a very thick layer of Amazon frogbit, and it was completely covered, and I'm thinking that maybe the frogbit being completely covered stopped the surface movement, and maybe there wasn't enough gas exchange to put oxygen in the tank. That's my guess. I really don't know if that's the case or not. Every couple of weeks I would have to take handfuls of frogbit out and to free up some space on the surface. That isn't happening anymore because red root floaters have taken over the surface of this tank. See if we can see it. This whole top of the tank now is pretty much all red root floaters. I found a few in here. I don't even know how they got here. I didn't buy any, but all of a sudden there was red root floaters on the top here, and they have taken over, and they've kind of forced the Amazon frogbit out. There's a little bit of frogbit here in the front, but it's mostly all red root floaters, and you can see they got little, I don't know if you can see it or not, but they do have little white flowers on them. The frogbit used to grow like crazy, and now the red root floaters have choked it out, and there isn't a whole lot of frogbit left in here. I do have free area on this side, but in the past even this side has been full of plants also. And it's going to be time shortly to pull some of these red root floaters out, as they've completely covered the top. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this tank. I want a tank that has more than just plants in it. I want to get some kind of a livestock for in here. I bought some ghost shrimp recently, but I really don't see any of them in here either. So I'm not sure what's going on and why I can't keep livestock in here, other than the reason I gave about maybe the floating plants on the top possibly stopping the water circulation and gas exchange. But that's just a guess. But the plants look very well. I'm very happy about the way this tank looks. We'll be giving it a trim very shortly. Get rid of some of this excess Riccia and Java moss here. That's the 10-gallon. My 20-gallon high has taken a hit in recent months. This tank used to be a lot more lushly planted than it is right now. I was getting some yellowing and brown leaves here on this tank, so I decided I would replace the lights because the lights were nearly 2 years old. And when I did that, I got a big algae problem. So I have since pulled out a lot of the plants that were over here on this side of the tank. And I'm hoping it's going to bounce back. This dwarf sage here, I recently trimmed actually the dwarf sage because it was reaching all the way to the top of the tank. So I trimmed it to get some light over here. I had 3 Radican swords in the back, which I pulled out last week and replaced them with the smaller sword plant here, and this Crinum calamostratum, which was in one of my other tanks. It got covered in blackbeard algae in one of my other tanks, so I couldn't get rid of it. So I actually cut the plant pretty much in half. I don't know how well it's going to do, if it'll grow back or not. This plant was this plant was like 3 feet long. I cut it down maybe more than in half, cut off all the blackbeard algae, and we'll see if this plant bounces back in this tank. There's one of my Epistos. There's another one right here. I have 3 Epistos here in this tank. They're nice, interesting fish to watch. Anubias, more Anubias, which has gotten covered in algae since I put the new light bulbs in. The old light bulbs were in here for 2 years, so I figured, well, it's time for a change. And then when I changed them, an algae problem occurred. It's starting to bounce back. There's not as much algae in here as there was. On the top here, my Harlequin rasboras like to hang out under this Riccia moss ball that I got here. That Riccia moss ball grows very quickly. I end up pulling that out and just keeping a small portion of it. Some water sprite. I used to have a big Java fern here in the front. Now I only have a little bit, as that too kind of died off on me. And some Rotala, which is getting a lot of light since I pulled out the Radican swords and trimmed the dwarf sage that was here. So this tank, it looks okay, but it's not nearly as good as it was a couple of months back. But it is starting to bounce back. Gold Pistilla tetras in here as well. And I have a school of neons in here, which is hard to see. At one time I had probably close to 30. And there's probably about 15 of them in here right now. They've been in here for, well, I've had these neons 2.5, 3 years. That's my 20-gallon high. Sorry for the glare. We'll move over here. Take a look at my discus. Here's my sand mirror with my pigeon blood behind him. They've been doing very well. I'm doing 50% water changes every day. Trying to keep the water clean. Probably going to remove this piece of wood that I have here in the center because they do get scratched up on it. I had another piece of wood that I have removed already. They do get scratched up. This cobalt, not cobalt, this is a blue pearl diamond. He's scratched up a little bit from this piece of wood as they chase each other around. They seem to scratch themselves on the wood. The plants in here are fake, of course. I did try real plants. but they just got covered in algae, so I decided I'll just go with fake plants in these pots just to create a little decor in the bare bottom tank, make it look a little less plain. I do have some rummy nose tetras, 5 rummy nose tetras, and there's 1 cardinal tetra in here. There's the one lone cardinal tetra. We saw my blue pearl diamond. We saw the sand mera. They are eating right now. I have some freeze-dried blackworms in the tank. They're slowly eating that. They're grazers. They don't. There you see, he's eating some there. They are grazers. They don't really attack the food all at once. This cube, it takes them 10 minutes or so before they finish off that cube. Here is a blue cobalt. He's looking very good. They like to chase each other around. That's pretty much what they do, is chase each other around all day. That's how they get scratched up. Here's the albino yellow snakeskin, eating some of those blackworms. They also eat blackworm flakes and beef heart flakes that I got from Ken's Fish recently. They really like those. And there's a red Turk there hanging out in the back. The red Turk and the pigeon blood that you see right here I got from Hans a little over a year ago. And the other 4 came from Discus Madness. There's a German blue ram in here also. There you see him down there. Did have plants and gravel and everything in this tank at one point. Took them out and just went bare bottom for the keep the clean water. Try to keep the water as clean as possible. Had these 6 discus. They've been in here. Well, the 3 I most recently bought about 6 or 7 weeks ago. And things have been going fairly well during that time. There you see, if it'll focus. There you see all of them. This is a 55-gallon tank. Like I said, I've been doing 50% water changes every day. I don't want to do more than 50% because my tap water comes out of the tap about 6.8 the pH. I don't age it. I go directly from the tap into the tank. Tank's about 6.2, so I don't want that drastic of a pH change for these guys. So that's why I do 50% every day. Seems to be working out well. Last look at the discus up close. A lot of bubbles floating around. I do keep an air stone in this tank. Maybe I don't really need to, but because of the high temperature of the discus water, I do keep an air stone in here just to keep it aerated so that there's enough oxygen in here for them. He's looking good. A little bit of peppering, but not much. They do a lot of chasing of each other around. That's the discus tank. We'll come over here and take a look at the 20 long. It's in a difficult spot to get a good view of. I gotta shoot it from up top here. Got a chair right in front of it. Hard to get down here and take a good look at it, but that's the 20 long. We'll start by looking at the top. Got some duckweed sitting here on top of Riccia moss. This tank is going to get a trim soon too, because this water sprite here has taken over and it definitely needs to be trimmed. And here I have an Episto in this tank as well. They're nice fish, interesting to watch. This tank has some 6 quarry cats in it. Silver tipped tetras. And just a few odds and ends here. Some Riccia, not Riccia, some dwarf sage here in the front. Little Blixa japonica behind that. Water sprite. Some Anubias here. This one here is seen hasn't been looking too good. This Anubias Nana Petite here has not been looking too good. Probably gonna end up pulling that one out. This Anubias Nana over here. Pardon me for the shaky camera work. And we have Java moss on a piece of driftwood. You would never even know that there was wood in here, but that's what all this is. This is all wood that you can't see. It's covered by the Java moss. And then we have another Anubias over here. This tank has been doing well. No algae in this tank. At least not very much. This Anubias here has looked better at times. Some browning on the leaves, but that's about the only issue I have in here. Definitely going to trim this water sprite back. It's starting to block everything underneath it. Fish like it. It blocks the light. They like to hang out under it. Gives them a reprieve from the light. Here's a quarry cat sitting right on top of the plants here. Should have cleaned the glass before I shot this video. That's my 20-gallon long. We got one more tank to go. Here's another tank that I've had problems with. It really was beautiful at one time, but I got a terrible algae bloom, the blackbeard algae in this tank, my 29-gallon TV tank. It just got covered. Everything got covered in blackbeard algae. So I ripped most of the plants out that got covered in it. It's still trying to recover. Bolivian ram right there. You can see the algae on this AR Mini here. You can see the blackbeard algae on it. I treated this tank with peroxide, and it just didn't seem to help. I gave it a pretty good dose of peroxide, but there's still blackbeard algae all over this AR Mini. I couldn't get myself to get rid of this AR Mini, although I probably can cut the top of it off, which is probably what I'm going to do. This top part has all the blackbeard algae on it and the bottom part doesn't. So at least on that one I'll probably want to cut it off. Get rid of the blackbeard algae that's all on the top. Maybe I'll be able to save the bottom. But the plants kind of just all got covered, and then they started to die out because the blackbeard algae was taking up all of the nutrients in the water, and the plants weren't able to get any nutrients to grow. Got some Anubias here in the corner, Rotala. Kabamba was a lot healthier. I lost probably half of it as a result of the blackbeard algae. This Crinum Natans isn't looking too good either. That one's probably going to come out. The peroxide did a number on the plants. Fish made it through, but the plants didn't look too good after I did the peroxide treatment. And it certainly didn't help very much with the algae either. It's a shame because this tank was really a beautiful tank before that problem happened. But it's starting to bounce back. Take a look at the fish. I got some threadfin rainbows. There's a male. Two males actually right there, threadfin rainbows, if it'll focus on them. And the females are right with them. A lot of white cloud mountain minnows, some harlequin rasboras, a couple of red-eye tetras. Once you get blackbeard algae in your tank, you really gotta attack it right away, and I didn't. I let it get out of control. I tried to treat it with Excel, but that didn't help, and then it just was everywhere. And this tank took quite a hit. But it is slowly bouncing back. That's the update of my tanks. Right, let's get a look at the two Bolivian rams before we go. They're nice fish. Easier to keep than German blue rams. Don't have to have quite the high quality of water that you do need for German rams. These guys are doing quite well in here.
Shortstop, and the Blue Jays did everything correctly to turn the double play quickly to Travis, who turns it. He's got a strong throw, but Parker just runs too well.
That's the update for tonight.
Clearly safe at first base.
Thanks for watching.